In preparing my words for tonight, I had the beginning of a thought, and then the thought disappeared, and then another thought appeared and disappeared. So my words may be a little jumbled as I am sort of navigating these thoughts, trying to piece them together. And that thought begins with a journey. For it was a little less than a year and a half ago, I heard God's call, Rabbi Sharff, Lech Lecha, go forth from the land that you know, the land of New York, the land of bagels and pizza, to a land you do not know, a land of steaks, a land of tri-faith, a land of loving community. Take your family, your wife, your children, pack up your car with your guitars and your fish, and go forth unto this new land. Now, I'm saying this a little tongue-in-cheek, obviously. I've made many journeys throughout my rabbinate, first to Tucson, then to Baltimore, then to Rockland County, and of course here to Omaha. In each one of those journeys, I was honored to be welcomed in as a rabbi of the community, first as assistant and associate rabbi, and then rabbi, and ultimately a senior rabbi. And in each one of those journeys, I'm very proud of what I was able to achieve with partners in the community and partners in the congregation where I served. Yet with each one of those journeys, there was always something left behind as well. Sometimes it was friends, sometimes it was family, sometimes it was both. Sometimes it was food, sometimes it was a community that I had helped build up or sustained or grow or to engage with. For in each journey, there is also a loss or multiple losses that also must be acknowledged. Now, I would not trade any single one of those journeys, including right here to Temple Israel in Omaha, for what I chose to leave behind. Nonetheless, those were losses. And it's curious because this week we are reading from Lech Lecha, where God chooses Avram. Does not tell us why. Tells us with Noah, God chose Noah because he was the only righteous man of his generation. Does not tell us why Abraham. We have to look to the Midrash for it. But what we do know is God said, Avram, Lech Lecha, go from your land, your father's land, your homeland, everything you know, to a land that you do not know, that I will show you, and you will be a blessing. God calls Avram with sort of a nebulous promise, not a promise of material reward, but that he will be a blessing. And for the first time and the last time in recorded history, a Jew did what they were asked to do without complaining or questioning. And Avram took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the people they had made. Nachmanides says, all the people that they had converted to monotheism, and they took them and went to this new land, this promised land. As Joseph Campbell describes, it was the hero's journey. Now, of course, because we read this Torah portion every year, we know how it turns out. We know Avram gets to the land. Ultimately, his name is changed to Abraham. And we know that he goes down to Egypt before coming back. His son Isaac goes down to Egypt before coming back. And then his grandson Jacob ultimately goes down to Egypt, beckoned by his son Joseph, where they remain for 400 years before returning to the land through the guidance of Moses and later Joshua. We know this because we read this story every year. But if we look at it through fresh eyes, we know that Avram must have left things behind. For it says, leave your father's land. Leave the land you know. Leave your friends, leave your family, leave your ideas, leave your ideals, leave your pizza and your bagels to go to a land that I will show you. So even in this incredible journey that becomes a foundational tale of what it means to be Jews, there is loss, there is grief, there are pieces of us left behind. Grief, as I like to quote from the vision in one of Marvel's many movies, says, grief is a sign of love enduring. For grief represents the world as it is now, but it has changed because something has happened. We've suffered the loss, some cases the loss of a loved one, some cases the loss of a dream, some cases the loss of something that we've left behind. And I was thinking about it this week as I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Torah Smash, with some of my friends. And it was a particularly poignant one that was led by Ethan Lane Miller, whose girlfriend, Kaya, took her own life a year ago. And on this podcast, they had Dr. Betsy Stone, who is a brilliant psychologist who talks a lot about a lot of different elements, and she is, in some ways, the chief psychologist to rabbis, especially in the CCAR. And she was talking a lot about the journey of grief, the journey of loss, the journey of mourning. And she mentioned that grief piles up. And I'd not really thought about that before. I mean, as you know, I'm going through my own grief journey. And it's curious how it manifests itself. Moments I'll be fine, moments I'll be struggling. And I noticed recently as I was conducting a funeral, it manifested itself again. For even though I was present for the family, enabling them to grieve their loved one, my own grief was still very present. And I was thinking about how grief piles up because we are a people grieving. We're a people grieving October 7th. We're grieving Amsterdam. We're grieving rising anti-Semitism. We're also grieving coming out of the pandemic. We never really had much time, not just to mourn those we lost, those who died, but also the lives that were profoundly changed. You know, I was thinking about it, the threat of a strike by the dock workers out on the West Coast. How did that manifest itself? We went to Costco and they were out of toilet paper. Not because they ran out, but because everyone was afraid they were going to run out. Grief continues to manifest itself, continues to pile on. And for many of us, we're feeling a sense of grief today because of what transpired this week. The grief of a loss of a dream that is not yet to be fulfilled. Does not mean it's over, but for many, the dream yet to be fulfilled. And so what can we do in these moments? Psychology today teaches, what do you do when we feel we can't do anything about it? When we can't do anything about a situation, it can be overwhelming. We can feel powerless or stuck in a situation where we believe you have no control and no ability to improve things. When we don't see a way out, these feelings can compound, making it hard to think clearly or find solutions. It is a fog of grief that can be overwhelming. The brain may struggle to process complex emotions, leading to feeling stuck, which can be frustrating, which can be draining. Feeling helpless is unsettling. We want to act, solve problems, or find solutions to improve things for ourselves and others. Losing that ability can lead to anger, frustration, sadness, or even despair. You may even want to throw your hands up in the air because you just don't know what to do to fix the problem. You may feel vulnerable, lost, and confused. It's a vulnerability that exposes our fears about our ability to cope or adapt, since in the moment, our typical methods for handling stress seem to feel ineffective due to the intensity of our emotions. Facing a situation that did not go the way we had hoped can feel deeply uncomfortable, which amplifies our anxiety and stress. It is natural to feel disappointed, frustrated, and even disheartened. What we can do about it is to channel those feelings into a sense of empowerment. One, be realistic about your feelings. You are human. Feel your emotions, including anger. Lack of control in situations is deeply personal, especially when the outcomes impact you and your community. These feelings are valid and a normal response to feeling unheard, hurt, or facing unexpected change. 2, set boundaries to understand issues more deeply, stay informed using reputable sources, and seek balanced perspectives, but set boundaries to avoid burnout. Continuous exposure to situations could add more stress and anxiety. Consider using scheduled breaks to ensure that you decompress and find new ways to engage and adapt. This includes, yes, social media and the news. 3, use your community for support. Realistically, we all need one another to communicate with and to share our values and concerns. If you look around, you can find comfort in the faces sitting next to you. And we can share ideas, plan initiatives, and encourage each other to keep working towards shared goals. This is what it means to be part of a community. Together, we can find comfort and lift each other up. And focus on you. Find the time to reflect on your values and goals. Practice them to have a positive impact on your immediate surroundings. This can be empowering, and remember, you do not have to fix the world. It is too great a task. Start small. Fix something small around you. One of the stories that we like to tell at Litaken to our teenagers is the story where somebody's going by a river and they see someone drowning in the water and they race in and pull them out. And then the next day they go down to the river and see someone else drowning in the water and they race in to pull them out. And pretty soon there's a deluge, lots of people drowning in the river, and the community gathers together and says, "What can we do?" And they finally decide we need to go upriver and find out why they're drowning. This is a story we teach because we want our kids to speak truth to power, and we want them to believe they can change the world. But sometimes it doesn't work. Change is hard. Change is difficult. Change is slow. And sometimes it's enough just to save the person who's drowning. That is a life that can be saved. Even if we can't save them all in one moment, at least we can save one. And if you've saved one life, you've saved the entire world. And create long-term goals, since change can be slow. Remind yourself that setbacks are a part of the process. And there are new opportunities for advocacy and change. Focus on long-term goals for positive change to build resilience, even if times seem difficult. I mention all of this not necessarily as a reflection of this past Tuesday, but for many of you, hopefully it does speak to you, but as a reflection of all the grief and loss that has been piling upon us for these days, these weeks, these months, these years. We are all going on our individual heroes' journeys, but we're all going on these journeys together. Avram left everything he knew behind to an uncertain world. There was grief and there was loss in that. But we are telling the story not of Avram, but of a changed and transformed man who we know as Abraham. And you know what Abraham did? He transformed the world. He and Sarah and their descendants transformed the world. We tell their story year after year, not because of what they left behind, not because of what they were grieving, but because of what they were able to carry with them into that next stage of their life's journey. We celebrate him because he was the one brave enough to take that first step. So yes, today can feel overwhelming and scary and exhausting and frustrating. But if we take that next step, even with everything we're carrying, who knows, maybe like Abraham, we can transform the world as well. Shabbat Shalom.